right, Jen. So you recently attended BASA's Women in Leadership Conference. What are two or three lessons you took away from the event? Or which session really stood out to you as the most impactful? And tell us a little bit about why.
Sure. So I was there for Saturday, and that was the day we got to pick from 8 different short session offerings. And it was hard to pick because they are all really interesting. But from the ones that I attended, the couple of lessons that I walked away with were it's really important to have a really honest reflection about what it is we really want and need for our careers. Because if we just follow along the standard path of, okay, we're supposed to work harder, work longer, get a promotion, make more money, and that's the track. But if that's not really what deep in our hearts is what motivates us, then, we're kind of fighting ourselves. And so they really emphasized getting real with yourself about what it is that you really are motivated by and what you really want and need out of your career, because maybe it's not the promotion to manage. Maybe it's just, being able to work on projects that you have particular interests in, or I need more time at home, so I need more flexibility, and, all of those things to really think about that. And then the other thing that I took away, it was really the strategic plan meeting for the district, right? Because that's obviously a really important piece of their work. And it's really interesting how that applies to you as a person, right? It's the same strategies. And they talked about how if you have something you really want to do, you need to write it down. And if you write it down, it's way more likely that it's going to happen. And then if you put a date next to it, it's even more likely to happen. And so they were encouraging the districts to do this. And I sat there and I thought, gee, that sounds like a really good idea. I should do that. So I was really taking them with the idea I should kind of come up with my own strategic plan, short-term and long-term goals. So, I liked how it was applicable to both.
That idea that if you speak it into existence.
Yeah.
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 That's awesome. And Ummul, I know you were excited to attend the reception honoring Cynthia Walker. So tell us a little bit about that reception and just how she embodied the BASA's Women in Leadership Conference theme, which was all in.
Of course. I went with my coworker Annie, and as two young women ourselves, walking into the reception was very intimidating, but also seeing all of the powerful women in that room was very inspirational. And when Cynthia Walker went up to give her speech, I was actually moved and I was inspired by the words that she was saying about just working hard and putting the children first because they are our future. And I think that's something really important to focus on, especially with young girls, especially with children of all ages. There's a mindset that we need to have for everyone, because even in our modern society, it's a difficult place for us as women to develop confidence in ourselves. And she said this one quote that I would like to repeat that I will forever carry forward. She said, "When doors open, I walk through them." And I thought that was amazing because so many of us are given opportunities in life that we just don't take because we don't feel confident in ourselves about it. She was just an incredibly inspirational person, and her speech was something that I will definitely carry forward in life. And as an individual, I don't know her personally, but I am definitely inspired by her and her actions and her attitude with kids and young girls.
It's great. And Jen, how did that theme of all in come alive for you?
For me, I think it was through another one of the work sessions. It was a session with Dr. Rhonda Knight, and it was a seat at the table. And she really spoke into the idea that it's not enough to just have a seat at the table. The famous quote about if there isn't a seat, bring your folding chair, right? And she said, it's not enough to just be there. You have to be able to affect change when you're there. You have to be heard and you need to be listened to. And oftentimes we feel like we don't belong, even if we're invited. And we walk in with this feeling of we don't belong, which people recognize. And they see it in our body language and they see it in all those nonverbal cues that we aren't certain ourselves and that we really need to get, again, I guess a lot of self-reflection messages hit me this weekend, but we have to really do the work to feel like we belong there so that when we do come to those, we are ready to share our experiences and to really talk into it. So that all in feeling of we have to be all in. It's not just the community, like as individuals, we have to be all in, and it starts here first.
That's great. And do you find that perspective, is this changing the way that you view women's role in the architecture, design, engineering, and construction industries, or your role specifically as a result of this conference? Or does it change the way that you think about the contributions you and other women can make to the industry? And that's a question for both of you, but Jen, I'll start with you since you led us into that.
Sure. I think for me, it was just a reminder of the importance of that confidence that we need to project. And I think we just sometimes get stuck in our normal way of doing things, or we just don't really think about how important that is. And, one of the other words she used in her lecture was unapologetic. And I was really struck by the power of that word. I know I was raised, instead of saying, excuse me, when you bump into somebody, I say, I'm sorry. Silly little phrases like that, even that just sort of subconsciously undermine that attitude, right? Like, we don't have to feel like we have to apologize for being there or that we're intruding. You have to really be confident. And I guess that's probably the way that I see it for myself, showing up in the workplace, just how I present. And then that naturally, I think, leads to more influence because people listen to you and you have a greater impact.
Ummul, what about you?
I think there's definitely a long way for women to go to be included in vital roles in the STEAM industries, science, technology, engineering, arts, and math. The ratio of women enrolling in architectural studies compared to the ones who end up doing the job or getting higher positions in that job are kind of concerning. And I think we just need to establish a natural progression from students to registered architects that will provide leadership in the profession and allow all women architects the ability to reach their full potential. We just need to have an environment of camaraderie and professionalism and just, have dialogue about issues of interest to women within the design community. One of the nonprofit organizations that I spoke to at the conference was called ROCKS, Ruling Our Experiences. And they work with young girls between the 5th and 12th grade to create generations of confidence in girls to control their relationships, experiences, decisions, and futures. And programs like that are definitely what we need to move forward and put ourselves on the pedestal as women. And I think that's incredibly important.
So I'm kind of hearing walk through the door when it's opened for you, be unapologetic in your seat at the table, and then make sure to open the door for the people that are coming behind you as well, and creating that culture of inclusivity, of support, of understanding as we each carve out our individual paths for what's right for us and our careers.
Yeah.
Well, that's
Definitely.
a great place to end it. Thank you. Any parting thoughts before we wrap up?
It was a great experience. I would definitely recommend. It was very good.
Absolutely.